Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is the Community Pod, and I am your host, Lester Class. Each and every episode is going to be filled with amazing stories from amazing people. You will hear the different journeys people went through, or are still going through, to be able to do what they love. From the failures to the successes and everything in between. This is a place to get to know the person behind their passion, because people only get to see the successes and not what it took to get there. If this is your first time tuning in, please subscribe and leave a review if you love the content. Now finally, I would love to welcome you to the Community Pod. What's going on, everyone? This is the Community Pod. I'm your host, Lester Class. I want to say thank you for coming back for another episode. I have an amazing guest in the building. She goes by a few things. Abby Soul, as well as Yanel Rivera. How are you?
Hi, guys. First of all, I wanted to say that I'm so excited to be here. I have been anticipating this for a while now. But I'm just really excited to just be here and just share some insight.
Okay, cool. So, what we first do is basically, would you be able to tell the people what it is that you do?
Okay, so I feel like I have so many titles. I am a full-time social media specialist. I am the Perth Amboy Arts Council Secretary, along with being a strategic management owner for Abby Soul Productions, and just being able to just, be the dot connector for my community as best as they can.
Okay. And so what I like to start off with is basically, so where is it that you're from?
So I'm from Perth Amboy. I was born and raised in Perth Amboy for literally the only place I've lived. And I have grown up on Fayette my entire life. And the reason why I say Fayette is because that block, I feel like me and my sisters own that block. I feel like if you knew us, you knew who we were in an instant. And that every person that was surrounded by the park of near my house, we all knew everyone that lived around that park. So during our childhood, we didn't go anywhere. We didn't have that much, to do because of the way that our parents, couldn't provide everything for us. But the things they could provide was, safety and just being able to have that playground near the block. So I've lived in Perth Amboy all my life, and I feel like I've had a lot of good things that I knew I would be a part of just because of my town, you know?
But yeah. I have to say, so you said that if the people that lived in your town knew who you were, right?
Yeah.
That gives me the idea that you had a very vibrant, outgoing personality from a young age.
Oh, well, as a kid, I was loud.
Yeah.
I was loud, and I don't know. I was very hyper. I was hyper. Me and my sisters were always at that park. We were always in charge of someone and of something. We always knew what was the go down, what was the 411 of what was going on. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I feel like it really was something that I'm able to say that I was a part of. If growing up on that block, if you grew up on that block, then you would know who really grew up on it. If someone said, "Oh, I grew up there," and you wouldn't, chances are they're either lying or they're telling the truth.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. And so what is I know I'm not far from it, but what is the Perth Amboy environment like?
So I want to be transparent because I feel like what I can say about Perth Amboy is you get either one or two things. You get the super inspired people, or you get the people that are not that inspired and they just stay there. Mm-hmm. And it's the one thing I feel like if you're not from here, there's not a good reputation about our town with the people that live in it. But when you know the town, it's very historic. There's a lot of firsts that have happened in our town. Us having the ferry that, is no longer available. But we used to have a ferry that would take anyone from Perth Amboy to Totenville. And that's in Staten Island. Mm-hmm. But now that's not really something that's available because, there's a lot of boats. There's a lot of, historic buildings that they don't want to take apart, which I'm glad that they won't. Because the main thing that you do see in the town is a lot of, artistic events, at least a lot of, community leaders trying to do the best that they can to change the narrative of our town. And I would say now in 2023, compared to how it was 10 years ago, it is definitely becoming more gentrified.
Okay.
They want to create better, infrastructure for the kids. They want to create a better environment that's safe, safe, but they want to make sure that at least the children are seeing something that they can build from. You don't want to be a part of a town or live a part of a town that doesn't provide that many resources,
Yep.
and I'm glad to say that I'm a part of a town that does if you look at what's available,
Yeah.
you know.
And for you to be doing something as a leader in Perth Amboy when it comes to the creative aspect and pushing so much on the importance of creativity and putting yourself out there and allowing yourself to flow through creativity is an amazing thing, I have to
Yeah.
say.
Thank you.
So what is it that made you do this? So what basically I'm asking is, what is it that, where is it that you found this passion for being creative and wanting others to embrace that?
So, long story short, I started working with kids when I was 15 years old. I had my first job at the mall. I was a Wet Seal associate. If anyone knows what Wet Seal is, it was one of my favorite stores. All the girls know what it is. It was in Woodbridge. But alongside of that, I was always with kids. I was a camp counselor for 2 years. Then I became a teacher's assistant. Then I became a lead teacher. And then I became a mentor. So for a good chunk of my life, I was a teacher and a mentor for 5 years. I did not see myself doing anything else other than feeling like kids need a sense of direction. They need guidance. They need somebody to feel like they can talk to, because I never had that as a kid.
Yeah.
I grew up with having the ability of, yes, that park, but that was all I had. My parents did the best they could to give us everything they could. But it was never easy. And, I think that even in our generation now, what kids need is guidance. But I don't think that it stops there. I think that I knew I can do more work aside from teaching in other aspects. I just didn't know how or where to start. But I'm excited to tell you where I even started doing everything that I was doing now, because I quit being a teacher one day. I was on my lunch break. I was sitting at Nunzio's across from the learning experience in
Okay.
Sayreville. And I had an outer body experience from like the school and where I was sitting. And I told myself, I don't think I could do this anymore. It wasn't about the kids. It was about the district. It was about the way that teachers are underpaid. Teachers do not get paid the way that they're supposed to at all. And the circumstances of feeling like I didn't want to continue teaching and then not have the moment of wanting to have my own kids. Because when you're around kids all day, you have to have a strength, you know what I mean? And I feel like I knew I had patience to help people
Yeah.
because of that strength, but because of that patience that I had that I didn't know I had. And it started with having patience with kids, because at least with kids, they don't really mean to do what they do. As an adult, you no longer have that excuse to just behave a certain way and then not be accountable for that. As a kid, you're a kid. You don't know better. It's the adult's responsibility to guide you through that. But I quit. I started a job at Chamonix, which was a skincare company. Started out as a media assistant. Didn't know anything about media besides my own experience with media, which was doing my events since 2018. Being a part of the community and collaborating on smaller events, but not really knowing what I was doing with it. But I learned corporate media, and I learned, corporate media and just the freelance media
Yeah.
that we all know. But it really just started off with one day waking up and realizing that teaching wasn't for me. And I feel like I probably would have never been where I am now if I didn't stop being a teacher.
Exactly. And I feel like that's such a, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in that period of time, it might have been one of the, maybe may have been a difficult thing you had to decide on, because
yeah.
it was a career that you decided to pursue, and then realizing that it wasn't for you, and then in that moment, it's like, what do I do now? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So how did you manage yourself in that moment?
First of all, I had no idea that I was just going to go on my lunch break and quit. I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't know what I was doing. I I went with my intuition. And a lot of the times I feel as though my intuition has saved me from just, if it doesn't sit right with you, if it doesn't feel right, something has to change. You can't live with that feeling and expect for you to wake up the next day and things are going to change. No, you have to figure out, well, what is it that is making me feel this way? Is it the environment? Is it a person? Is it the place? What is it? And so I knew that it was just the complete environment. It was just not, it wasn't designed to support teachers and for teachers to do their best and be happy doing their best. It wasn't that kind of environment. And everyone who's been a teacher knows that you're always going to get the short end of the stick some way somehow in the most unfortunate circumstances, because doing the right thing doesn't always give you a sticker, and doing the right thing doesn't always give you a pat on the back. It means that doing the right thing means, hey, I might not get this recognition right now, but it's going to help majority of the people. And if I'm okay with it helping majority of the people, because hey, if one person leaves, maybe that might wake everybody else up and say, why did this person leave? This is one of our best teachers. And I was, not to brag, but I really was one of the best. I've gotten awards, teacher of the year, team leader, but it doesn't change how you feel.
Yeah.
You can get all the awards, you can get recognized, but if it doesn't feel as though it's genuine and you don't feel as though people are really showing you that recognition because you deserve it, you move somewhere else and figure out the steps to continue moving forward, even for a life that you have no idea what's coming ahead of you. So I didn't know what the hell I was going to do after teaching, and that's just my honesty.
Okay. And then I wanted to ask, because I feel like a lot of students who are in school, whether that's high school, elementary, and things of that sort, I guess public schools or any type of teacher, right? Is it true that this statement that teachers do what they do because they love to do it, not because of anything else?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you become a teacher thinking that you're going to get the most money in the world, quit now. Like, there's no guidelines to what you're going to walk into when you become a teacher. It's always different. Every student that you're going to deal with is different. Every obstacle that you're going to deal with as a teacher it's always going to lead to something that ends up making you overwhelmed, making you inspired. You get all the feelings. And what they don't really say is a lot of teachers are parents. There's a lot of teachers that go broke trying to give their students the best because the districts may not provide certain things. You don't know how many times a teacher has to come home and bring the work home. Mm-hmm. There's been times I've had lesson plans that if I haven't finished them at school because something's going down, I have to take it home and finish them to make sure that I'm set for the next day.
Yeah.
But it's not easy, and teachers deserve more. Teachers really do deserve more. I really feel as though if I was still a teacher now, I would have definitely learned from the things that I know I've done differently then. But this generation has the power to change the way teachers get paid. Changing the way that teachers can even just do their own thing, because a lot of times you can't even teach what you want to teach. They don't talk about that either. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't completely know the story, but I know that I've had teachers that want to show us certain things and they can't because of the way that the school district works.
Like Columbus Day, for example. You don't know how many people do not like teaching Columbus Day. They're not fans of teaching it because what we're told in books and what we know is right is not, they're not parallel.
Exactly.
There's no way that you're getting the exact information. It's the same way as us not knowing in textbooks that the first person who made, the ability for a telephone was black, or the first person that made the ability to have, an airplane fly out of the state was actually in Perth Amboy. And, the first aircraft, one of the first aircrafts back then was Perth Amboy. You don't hear things, was made in Perth Amboy, but you don't hear things like that. You don't hear the actual history of what goes down in textbooks. So when you want to teach children and go outside the box, you can't, because there's policies. And although people don't like to admit it, there is politics in teaching. And we may not be able to kind of, tell everybody what it is and what the do's and don'ts are. But teachers who have dealt with it to the thick of it, they know.
Okay.
They know.
And do you feel like students should appreciate their teachers a lot more? Because I feel
Absolutely.
like I do feel like the generation, I feel like, because I believe I'm still in the same generation as like young children, like teenagers or in elementary school, I don't know. But I don't feel like they appreciate what teachers do for them.
No.
At all.
I could tell you this. Whenever there's parties, think of how many holidays are in a year. And you have some teachers only have to teach one class.
Mm-hmm.
Other teachers have to teach multiple classes. Think of how much money goes into these holiday, gifts that you want to give to your students. They're not coming out of the district's pocket. They're coming out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And if you love these kids, because I feel like, especially me, I loved all my students. I can't say I've had favorites, but you just know the ones that leave a mark on you and the ones that will just always be on your mind for the rest of your life, But there's a lot that goes into making the world go round for these kids that parents don't know. Mm-hmm. Parents don't know either. There's a lot of parents that don't also appreciate the teachers, And I think I've said this before, and I feel like I think it's a good place for me to say it because I've said it in the past. But there's a lot of parents who don't want to take a look at themselves and realize that sometimes kids are the way they are and their structure is the way that they are because they're lacking something. And teachers are there to help you and make that transition easier. We know that you have a 9-to-5 job. We're with your kids 9 to 5, So there has to be a level of give and take as a parent to, understand what teachers do. And there has to also be that respect as a teacher that understands that you're never going to be a parent or understand that parent in their shoes. You know what I mean? You could be a parent and a teacher, but it's not your kids, So it's a lot of give and take. It's a lot of understanding what you can say, what you cannot say. But the politics in teaching overall is there's so many areas that we can go into about teaching.
Exactly.
The list goes on.
Well, what grade did you teach, if you don't mind me asking?
I teached pre-K, and kindergarten. And I also was a site coordinator for an aftercare program from, grade 5 to 8.
Okay.
So I had a mixture of at least those age brackets of kids. Okay. I feel like that's the pivotal age of where you guide and mold the kids the most,
5th and 8th?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, from personal experience, a few years ago when I graduated high school, I reconnected with my 7th grade teacher because she definitely helped me, in life. And I think that teachers need the recognition that they deserve. And students should look at teachers and understand that they do what they do because they care.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the money. Any adults or anybody that's in high school and looking to get a career, they know that if you want to be a teacher, you're not going to be getting paid the best, but you do it because you enjoy helping and loving and being there for children and molding the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, my question to follow that up is: has any student tried to reach out to you or wanted to, has seen your Instagram or may have just known who you were and was like, I still want to be connected with you if you're not a teacher?
Oh, wow.
If that's okay with me asking.
Yes, there's a few. One of them her name was Kyra.
Okay.
She was an Indian girl and she never spoke in class. Never spoke. When I tell you this girl wouldn't say a peep unless I was around, I kind of learned how to have communication with her even when she didn't want to speak to me. Mm-hmm. But she was comfortable with me. Her parents loved me. Her parents would have play dates with me and her daughter after school, even after I was done teaching. And I remember one of my last days of teaching, she came up to me and said, "You're the reason why my daughter bloomed into the person that she is now." And I was like, to me, that was deep because it's like, it comes full circle. It makes you feel as though all your hard work, as a teacher doesn't go unnoticed. It makes every one of those moments where faculty may not come through for you, or the district may not come through for you, but the parents overall that appreciate that, they have a way of just making you feel like, wow, this is what I'm doing it for. This right here, and till this day, I think she's 8 or 9 now. It's been years. I have her parents on Facebook, and they're always giving me words of encouragement anytime they see something new or positive go down. They're just always letting me know, like, wow, like my daughter still thinks of you. And I love that. Even one of my other students, his mom actually does my brows and has been doing my brows for the past 7 years.
Okay.
So it's crazy because you see kids and you see how much they grow even outside of everything that you've done for them, everything that you've given them a platform to feel, to learn, and to grasp whatever reality of life that they've grasped with you, to take on to whatever part of their life they're going to next.
Exactly. And so I want to move on from the teaching point in your life and what Abby Productions is. Abby Soul Productions. Where did this like all start off from? Like this whole production? Well, I guess let's start off on the basis of what is Abby Soul Production.
So Abby Soul Productions is a strategic management company that supports nonprofits, supports artists, supports creatives. And what we do is we give a platform to men and women so that they feel as though they have somewhere to, take their branch and, grow into a tree. A lot of people have their gifts and they don't know who and what to run to as an artist, as a book writer, a poet, someone who's looking to start their own events. We're the platform that helps people understand that there's someone right here that can help you, make those things easier. If an artist needs a studio session, I do giveaways for packages, for social media packages, studio sessions, just so that at least artists can feel as though someone in the community is, helping the world go round. Because I feel like there's a lot of people that have their craft, but not a lot of trusted people to go to expand their craft. And it really started off, but even before it became just the platform itself, it started off with Women Speak Up. In 2017, I thought of an idea to create a women's event that would help women feel as though they're not alone. Coming to a place where you feel as though other women are inclusive, they're smart, they just want to give and give and give, and there's no hidden agenda, no hidden animosity, no ego. Just love, support, and encouragement is just what makes women feel like they're not alone. And there wasn't really a platform like that in Perth Amboy. I've never had anyone that was a guidance of me growing up because, I never had a motherly like figure that was consistently in my life a long time. So it started from just me knowing that, I have wonderful parents, but I was raised differently. I was raised with I had to make it count on my own. Once I was given the tools to do it, I had to just make it happen. And my event also stemmed from a girl that really inspired me during one of the really, really, really hard parts of my life when I was battling health issues. She unfortunately passed away. And what she left me with was, please do not go on this life after you beat the things you beat, after the pain that you've endured, and anything that is your personal testimony for pain. Don't let that be the only thing that's a part of you. Do something with it. And I knew I always wanted to create an event and just have all the women in the world come, but I didn't know where to start or what to do. And my first event ended up having over 90 people. I had no idea. The first annual Women Speak Up was in 2018, and I hosted it by myself. Found a DJ, found people, and I had no idea that all these artists that I found would really end up inspiring me to keep doing it year on and year end. And now we're about to be at the 6th annual Women Speak Up that I am doing potentially in October. But I feel like that event opened up the doors for me to realize that my teaching didn't stop with kids. It started with just being able to open up that platform for women and men that are adults, adolescents, because like I said, it doesn't stop at kids, at a child, a childlike age. It continues to go on. So there's a touch of that.
Okay. All right. Well, I have to ask, with all this being said, you are a big person, just from the little bit of conversation and the little bit of research I've done on you. You're big on help. You're a big person on helping others and just giving the helping hand so that others can do well. And I see that you participate in a lot of community service. You also had the Special Olympics on the prior day that we had, and I just thought that was amazing. I've had other people give me excuses, and I was like, yeah, this isn't an excuse. And I saw that you were there, and it was just a beautiful thing to see that you're doing things to help communities, and you're doing it in the best way possible.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, why is it so important to you to help people?
I never realized how much I help people until that's something I get a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like I have to help people, even when sometimes it's not even in the best interest of my own.
Okay.
And that's where I realized I have to always be mindful of how much I help. Making sure that I'm helping people that want to be helped. But overall, I feel like I love helping people because that's just who I am. It's hard to explain like where it comes from, but I just feel like I have to be the one. It's like a feeling. It's like that fire in me that's like, this person can do so much if they did this, down the third. I need to tell them. I need to help them do this. I need to figure out a way to make them understand that even if there's 5 people that don't want to help them, there's one person like me that will. Mm-hmm. And so it's really just that. It's, one, being a teacher, that was one, but just everything that's happened in my life that was supposed to knock me down, and the love I still have for people to still want to do for people. I think that's what really showed me like, wow, I have the resilience and the drive to help all these people that may have been lost at one point like me, and I can do something to help make their journey feel a little less hectic. Mm-hmm. So it really just starts with that. You have to want to do it. It's not something that helping people doesn't always get you an award. Like I've said this before, sometimes helping people is a very lonely road, and you'll get the recognition for helping the wrong people sometimes and realize like, wow, like this is a really shitty feeling. Like I helped somebody that I genuinely thought, needed it, and people can abuse that help. But the people that really honor your resources and they honor everything that you want to do, they'll never take that for granted. And I've noticed that the people that I have helped have gone into so many other parts of their life. Interns that have worked for me. One of my favorite interns, her name is Alexa, and if she watches this, this is a shout out for her. She helped me last year when I was transitioning through one of the most hectic Women Speak Up events for me, of my life. I was rebranding. I had to remove certain people that weren't supporting the platform that I built and put everything into. And, now publicly saying this for the first time, it was a woman like her that made me realize I had to restart my initiative of how I help people.
Okay.
And with Alexa's help, I was able to do so much. And it was because of one person like her, I was able to not just take Women Speak Up and leave it as an event, but now I'm trying to create it more globally so that I have my LinkedIn platform that other women can find out other resources for. I have the Women Speak Up part of the website where if maybe the event's not going on, but there's other tools that are there that women can use if I'm not around. But there's just so many. So, I feel like the helping The helping hands start off from just the women that were able to raise me growing up, like my aunt and grandma, that they're helpers.
Okay.
If you know them, they help everybody. They help the world if they could. So I get it from them, and I get it from women who just give me that feeling to keep on helping no matter what happens.
Okay. Well, I do have a question because this is how. So I'm big on help too. I think that eventually what I would like to do with this podcast I hope by next year I can start community service where I can have a bunch of creatives come together, help other creatives who are trying to figure out what they want to do and things of that nature, as well as trying to do things like that. And I feel like this is my question to you. Do you help people? Does helping people help you? If that makes sense.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because that's how I feel.
We
I
snap.
feel like
We snap. We do snaps in poetry. So, and I love poetry, so I had to snap for that. But that's a good question because it does. I feel like when I'm not doing something to make the world go round, to help my community, to help the women on the Arts Council, which I'm now grateful that I have, the ability to do, I don't feel like I'm living my purpose, or I don't feel like I'm fully doing what I'm meant to do, because I don't know, it's just like a feeling when there's downtime and I don't have my events, or there's nothing going on, or there's no volunteering, there's nothing, I get bored and I'm like, I have to do something. It's been a year since I've been out of not high school, excuse me, college.
Mm-hmm.
And I already want to go back to grad school. I told myself, I'm like, all right, I was going to take a break from my master's, but I got to go back and I have to keep going. It's just when you're that person that has that feeling and that, I don't know how to explain it. It's just this overwhelming fire that doesn't get put out. It doesn't get put out from a person, a place, or thing. It's just there. You have to live that. You have to keep going. I feel like that's rare. Certain people, they lose interest in things so easily, random, but people lose interest in relationships, in people, in jobs. No one really has a sense of knowing themselves if you lose interest that fast, in my eyes. When you know yourself and you know what you're supposed to do, you don't lose interest in all the little things, and they may just be short steps to where you need to go, but they're not boring. They're fun. The journey's fun. It can be exhausting, it can be painful, but it's fun. And if you remind yourself that there's so much that comes out of it, even if you don't, I don't know, even if one day you can't help everyone the same way, there's always the ability to, all right, what am I going to do now? What can I do to find other ways to help? And you move from there, and that's really it.
No, yeah, and I the reason I ask that question is because I feel like when it comes to helping people, it allows me to feel better about myself, because sometimes when I'm sitting there in the same thing, like where I'm sitting and I'm not doing anything, I start to have to deal with my own emotions.
Oof. You just made me, just to throw in there, I've noticed that a lot of the times, one of the biggest things is I also help people because I was not helped. And when you're a natural helper, you notice that sometimes you don't always get that help in return. But when you're a natural helper, you know that it's okay that you don't get that in return, because you get that the good feeling that you get when you know you helped somebody and it made a difference. But being a helper overall just is from being in places where I've really, really needed help and nobody was there. Nobody. Like, you'd think that the people that you really could count on could be there, and they just weren't there. And I want people to feel like they have somebody to count on. And if that's me, I promise you, you will be able to count on me. If I say I'm going to be somewhere on time, I'm going to be there. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I hardly ever not do anything unless, like I said, maybe I have to go to Special Olympics and I might have forgot. I've never not helped somebody because I don't want to help them. It always comes from a place of love, and it always comes from a place of, I want to do this.
So you also mentioned something when it came to teaching, that in order to do your best, you need to be happy doing it, right?
Yeah.
And you also mentioned that with all the things that we basically talked about during the podcast, is the fact that I feel like it is so important to love what you do and be happy doing it, and understand that, you might not get paid very well in the beginning, and it might take a long time for you to get to where you want to be. But if you're happy doing it, that's all that matters.
Absolutely.
So my question to you is, why is it so important to love what you do and be happy doing it?
Well, it really is important to love what you do and be happy doing it for the simple fact that you'll never get tired of it. If you love it and you're meant to do it, you never get tired of it. Kobe never got tired of playing basketball. He never got tired of playing basketball, not even until his dying breath. He still thought about it. And, I always talk about how there's people who, if they have to complete a mission, right? For example, and I say this all the time. If you know that you're in position to do more, you also have to have a check-in with yourself. Are you able to do these things that you love and continuously doing the things that you love? Because a lot of the times we get the power to have all these things that we're doing, right? We have that great job that we said we wanted to get. We have that girlfriend or that boyfriend that we finally found after God knows how long, years of dating. We've gotten that apartment that took us so long to find, right? But what do you need to do to keep it? Because that's what not to answer a question with a question, but that's the real thing is, what can you do to keep what you love and continue doing what you love? Because it can die if you're not in the best place with your health, in the best place spiritually, in the best place emotionally. And there's going to be times where if you get tired of doing what you love, or there may be a change, you have to restart that focus. I was watching a podcast one day, and I feel like it supports this question you're asking me so good. Because what he said was, for 5 years, I lived my life and all I did was successfully do everything finally the right way after the 5 years prior not doing it the way I was supposed to. But then I got a wife and then I got a kid. And I still tried to do the same things the same way with my wife and kid. And he said the reason why it wasn't working for him, even though it successfully worked before, is because the circumstances are different. When the circumstances are different, you have to, question what you have to do different. And that's where you can be your best self and continue loving what you do in every lifetime. Because each generation changes. Each year that goes by changes. And if you want to keep doing what you love, you have to keep going with it. You have to make sure that you're learning and adapting to everything that you need to keep that going. Because you could lose everything in an instant. Okay, tomorrow's not promised. And I think that that's a very cliche that everybody says, but it really isn't. And a lot of us think that we have tomorrow to continue doing certain things when we don't. So be able to just, if you know that you're doing something that you love, ask for the tools to keep doing it, not just to embrace it in that moment, but to keep doing it.
What is something that you wish you would have heard when you were younger that you can tell to the younger generation now?
Oof. You don't know everything. You don't know everything. A lot of us think that we do. And I think that the entitlement of thinking that you know everything can get in the way of you being able to do some incredible things. I've seen it happen with people. I've seen people give up a chance to work with Bad Bunny because they thought that they were too good to continue performing with them. And they know who they are. But there was a festival in Perth Amboy back in the day, and Bad Bunny was here, and no one knew who Bad Bunny was then, like the way we know Bad Bunny now. But they had the ability to go and work with Bad Bunny for 6 months, and you know what they said? They said no. Where's Bad Bunny now? A lot of us think we're too good for free opportunities. We're too good for, being able to work at that part-time job at McDonald's. We're too good to, go to therapy. No, you're not too good. the whole purpose of questioning everything in this world is because you don't have all the answers. Even people in their 40s, they don't have all the answers. Why do you think people say you don't know or live your best life until you're deep in your 40s or 50s? A lot of the older people, they're like, I finally figured out who I was. And certain people, they're already like in their 50s by that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's a generation thing to some degree. But it's also just know when to just listen to other people. Know when to stop relying on what you think you know, because sometimes it could be misleading you into different paths. It can mislead you into dating the wrong person, to marrying the wrong person, to going and working for the wrong job. It can mislead you to do so many things if you're not aware of what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy, because I feel like if someone told me that to not know is to know, I would have been a little bit more humbled earlier than now. Because I feel as though I'm humbled now, and that's because life humbled me.
Mm-hmm.
Life humbles you. Life has a way of saying, psych, you thought, and
Mm-hmm.
completely flip around the scenario. Because you ever heard that saying that tell God your plans and he'll laugh?
Mm-hmm.
It's true, because we don't know what the universe ultimately holds for us. All we know and all we're capable of is how we make our days count.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the advice I wish I got as a kid. And I would keep telling people that.
And I think that's what you said was perfect, because we don't know everything. And I feel like you also mentioned that it's different in generations, because I feel like the reason is different. Not to say that the older generation took long. It's the fact that things weren't accepted as much.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, I'm able to accept what I know my father or my my older the older family in my family can accept.
Yeah.
And I can sit here and say, okay, I can cry if I need to cry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of men who won't cry because it's what they were taught.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing that goes for women. Like, you can't dress that way because it's not the right way to dress. You have to dress this way, and it's not fair. We're able to accept how we are now. And I feel like also, like, for example, there will be a lot of people that I feel like if we were to go years back, that me and you couldn't have sit here and to have a conversation.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, why are you speaking to another female, or why are you speaking to another male? And that shouldn't be the way it is. We're still human.
Mm-hmm.
We are allowed to speak, and because I feel like communication's everything.
Absolutely.
To get to know other people and acknowledge that there's other cultures out there with different beliefs, and you can have your opinion and I can have mine, but we can still live amongst one another without being like, I can't talk to them because they don't think the way I think. So I love that you bring up the generation thing, because it's huge. It's not that one generation is better than the other. It's that with time we're accepting and we're learning about one another, instead of being like, I think I know it all, I don't need to learn anything about the next person.
We're the generation that has the power to break down so many cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a hit or miss though, because I'm 28. I'm going to, I'm a millennial by, generation wise.
Yeah.
I'm a millennial. There's a lot of things I see people that are 2021 doing that I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a generation thing. We have TikTok now. We have Reels. We have so much more of a creative platform. But because of that creative platform, it gives off a lot of entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like one of the biggest things with just generations that I've been trying to tell the younger generation is a lot of our parents did not let the certain things that they're doing now fly.
No.
Like, there's just so much that I'm like, whoa, if I did this, I would be grounded.
Mm-hmm.
I would have gotten the chancleta or something. Hispanics know what kind of repercussions we would get, right? And so this is me now and as an adult understanding that sometimes that way as well is not the best way. A lot of our older parents And I had this conversation with my dad, which I love my dad, and it's Father's Day, so I could, say shout out to my dad. But I love my dad because he has tough conversations with us, and we give him our perspectives on what we think of people his age.
Okay.
And we're critical. Like, me and my sisters will tell him straight up, like, yo, if one of your ancestors said this to us now, they're gonna get called racist. Like, automatically, they're gonna get called racist. And I know it's hard because, again, it's a generational thing. A lot of people that are older than us, they don't believe in therapy. They don't believe in you going outside of what's happening in your house and gossiping to telling other people. They don't like that. You can't tell your friends if there's a problem. There's a lot of stuff that even my friends now, they'll talk to me about the things that they go through. And I've gotten their blessing to even mention this, but one of my close friends, she deals with stuff with her mom all the time. She's 26 years old and her mom still feels like she can tell her what to do. How, Sway? How? I'm like, do you ever just tell your mom, like, sis, chill? Like,
Yeah.
no offense, like, that's what the younger generation would say is sis, chill. But, and I feel like the older generation has to lighten up a little bit. They don't want to hear it, but they have to lighten up. There's a lot that we know that we're unbreaking, and not unbreaking, but we're unraveling in the sense of we don't have to do things the way that you guys did them. And I think that's what the older generation thinks sometimes, is we still have to struggle the way that they struggled. And that's not the case. There's resources, there's therapy. It's no longer an excuse that your mom didn't treat you right when you were 7 and you're 29 years old. It's not an excuse no more. You have to take what you have to take to fix that. But it is their fault that they put you through that, and you know where to separate that line where it's like, my parents put me through this, but I know that I have to change this because I don't want my kids to suffer from what potentially might be that I might end up doing the same things they do. Because a lot of the times they say we end up like our parents in some way, shape, or form. And I see some of me and my parents that I didn't see when I was younger. A lot of the times we think that our parents don't know better for us. Most of the time they do. There's a smidge that they could learn from us, but there's also just, I don't know. I feel like I'm grateful that my parents let me express myself the way that I want to, because other people, they don't. And there is a respectful way of talking to your parents about what you want them to understand. And there is a disrespectful way of talking to your parents, because there's a lot of things that and I would say the Gen Z generation mainly, is they're very ruthless when it comes to their parents. There is no filter. Even with just younger parents that are younger parents in this generation, you know what I mean? Like the latest 21 and 22-year-olds that may be parents. Everything is based on letting their kid be on technology. Sometimes that's not great. You have to just know what cycle you need to break so that you're not, spreading that into your family as you get older. But you also need to know what cycles you need to break. A lot of the times we end up carrying what our parents left from what they've been through as children, and they left it on to us. They don't realize that they're doing it. And this is where the generational thing comes in, because they've never gotten that platform or a space to go to therapy. Back then, that was frowned upon. You were considered insane if you were to think about going outside the box and going to see a therapist. Or people in your family would be like, I know. You know what I mean? And like we're Hispanic. We know how our families can gossip and be like, ay, pero Juana no está haciendo bien hoy. You know what I mean? And it's like the whole family ends up knowing your business about how you did something as a child because parents don't know boundaries. And that's the conversation to me that in this generation, we can learn how to have if this generation learns how to figure out how to have it. Because, man, parents cannot, and I'm sorry, but parents don't know how to have that conversation with their kids. They do not like being told what to do. They look at it like they're being told what to do, rather as a suggestion, rather as, Ma, I don't like that you spoke to me like this because you embarrassed me in front of people. I'm 21 years old now. You don't need to talk to me like that. That's healthy communication. That's, and that also starts with you as a parent having that healthy communication with your kids, So shout out to parents that are in our generation that are young, no matter what age in your 20s that you are. Shout out to you if you are having a healthy communication line with your kids, because they're going to grow up to be more verbal and more aware of their own emotional issues when they have a place to talk about it. If not, you're going to have someone that feels as though they can rip everybody and not have a filter and say whatever's on their mind without having a limit. Because yes, the world is a free place for you to have the freedom of speech, but that doesn't mean you can say whatever the hell you want. And you need to know what to say and what not to say, because everything has consequences.
Exactly. And yeah, and I feel like when it comes to like, I don't know if it's for other people's households, and if it is, parents, if you could like not tell all your kids' business to like everybody, because I don't think it's necessary. And like I feel like that's so important to build that trust with your parent, where it's like, hey, could we just like not tell like everybody and their mother and their dog, and not everybody needs to know this information. And then sometimes parents still tell, but I feel like if you build that trust with your child, they'll only want to tell you more things, and I feel like everything starts at home.
No, absolutely. I feel like that you said it best. Once, and my best friend, she's like that with her sons. She sits and says, "Why did you do that?" She doesn't just yell at them or scold them, because a lot of the times a lot of the patterns that our parents put onto us was because they never explained why we shouldn't be doing things. They just said we can't do them. You need to. It's not because we want to act like we're entitled. Like, why? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Some kids, sure. But sometimes people just want to ask because they want to know not to do it again. And kids, teenagers, adults, people need to feel okay with asking a question without getting their head ripped off because I'm your mother and what I say goes, or I'm your father and what I say goes. When in reality, that's hurting your kids. I was a behavioral therapist, an intern behavioral therapist for a year. And it was definitely not easy. I had a child that their parent was very, very critical with the way they wanted things to be. They did not believe that there was another way of doing things. They said that was the way that they had to do them, and that's the only way. When in reality, that's the only way that's comfortable for your liking, and the only way that you'll allow yourself to do those things.
Exactly.
Because you don't want to think of, hey, there might be 3 other ways of doing this to make my life easier and to communicate with people a lot more easier. Because what happens when you have a kid that has communication issues, you then create a teenager who's, has those problems communicating, an adult who has those problems communicating, and the list goes on as you get older, and it's like, there's so much that we can stop while we stop them in the tracks now, so that we don't continue these harsh patterns onto our kids and onto everyone else that we're raising, whether or not, we agree with it or not.
Exactly. So we are very, very close to the end. I'm going to be asking you my questions that I ask every one of my guests. But I want to start off with, did you ever think that you'd be where you are right now?
Yes and no. I've been through things that would make a grown man cry. And I almost died. Something very traumatic happened to me, and I almost lost my life. It gained a sense of perspective that life is short and that I want to strive for any ounce of happiness that I can have. So I wouldn't be here if I didn't hold on to that. But I believe I would have if I believe in somehow, some way I'm meant to be where I am right now. And that maybe if I didn't know I was going to end up here before, I would say that. But now I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And maybe 5 years ago, if you asked me if I knew I was going to be here, nope. But today, Yeah, I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
I'm finally where I'm supposed to be.
Okay. And are you okay with getting into the what could have happened with
Yeah.
so what was that experience like?
Um, I feel like, and you mean like could have happened in the sense of,
Your near death experience. If you're okay with
oh,
talking about that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I fought cancer when I was 19. Publicly, this is the first time I'm telling the world because it is big, but I didn't know all that about my diagnosis. Um, I was 19. I had my head up my ass. I was getting ready to, go to one of the best schools, and I couldn't do that. It's like you graduate, you're finally like ready to just conquer the college life, and
Mhm.
then boom, life hands you, a set of circumstances, and you're like, what the hell? I trusted the wrong people at the time. I got close to a family that I thought was there for me and instead was very, very, very toxic. And then, I had an instance where I almost died because of just the circumstances of me not being able to breathe one day. Just the not breathing alone was like, you don't realize how much a breath, the ability to breathe, is such a reward, and what I can say is that, this time around, I'm always dealing with things that comes to my health. It's always something that I'm, still struggling with till this day. But I've got it. I'm in a place where I know more about, keeping cancer away. I know more about being able to thrive if, if a pandemic happens
Mhm.
again, if the air quality one day wants to decide to mess up on us
Yeah.
again. There's a lot that you don't realize that you take for granted because you don't have to think about them.
Mhm.
And a lot of people that have never been in my shoes to ever have to deal with even battling that wouldn't understand what I mean by that until something traumatic, heavy, and just indescribable hits your life, and it changes everything in the blink of an eye.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that I'm alive. I'm glad that even now I'm, going through some minor things with my health, but I have a hold on it. I have a team. I have people that love me. This is the first time in my life where I feel like I can do anything in the world and I'm going to be okay. At 19, I did not think that it was going to be okay. I
Mhm.
did not think that at all. Had someone that I would borrow clothes from that thought that my condition wasn't that serious because of God knows how much I would take her clothes. Like like innocent stuff like that. People think because you take a shirt that you're going to lie about your life. Like,
Mhm.
people will do whatever they need to do in fight or flight mode. And I didn't trust any of the people that I was around the moment that I found out I had cancer. I had my first boyfriend. The first time I was ever going to go into college. It was a lot of firsts that anybody who was dealt those cards would not know what to do.
Mhm.
And the pressure of certain people feeling entitled to know my every move, to know what decisions I was going to make, to know if I wanted to do treatment, to know if I didn't want to do treatment. It was a lot.
Mhm.
And I messed up a couple times. I went off on the wrong people. My emotions were in high places, but now I realize that those people were never for me. Those people were looking for ways to already see me fail.
Mhm.
And so they took whatever narrative they had during that time of my life and ran with it, not considering what I could have possibly been going through and maybe just an innocent, moment of, I don't know what I'm supposed to do and I'm just doing the best that I can.
Mhm.
And if I'm messing up at explaining things to people, or a lot of the times, the biggest thing was letting people in and after telling people my diagnosis. It wasn't easy. I got a lot of, you need to do this because you could lose your life and you need to do this. And it's like, but you don't know what I need
Mhm.
to do. You're not fighting it. It's so easy for everybody to tell you what you're supposed to do on the outside, but a 19-year-old girl like me that had the world on her shoulders, you don't know what the hell you're supposed to do. And if I could go back and tell those people one thing, I would say, listen, when someone is dealing with the biggest battles of their life, have patience with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't know how they'll change to be. You don't know what's going to go down for them the next day. And we can create whatever narrative. We can think that someone's fine just because they're not letting us in. And it might not be that big of a deal at the time because I hid my diagnosis from a lot of people. And I did. I didn't want to let people in. But the people that I did let in, they're the ones that saved my life. And they're the ones that get the credit. Not the ones that made it harder for me. Not the ones that gossiped because they felt like maybe I didn't want to share certain things or do certain things because for attention. Like the narratives that people have when they're raised with certain ideologies is crazy. Okay. And it goes back to generational trauma, and to end it so that I don't, go, off and on and talking about it. But generational trauma brings out the worst and the worst or the best in people. You know who needs healing and who doesn't. And you know who's for you and who's not. And I think that me fighting cancer showed me all the people that were supposed to be in my life then and now. And I'm grateful for it. So being here, being able to do God's work, being able to help people, being able to still figure out a way to stay in remission, to not let it, turn into something else in the future. I'm doing that. I'm doing that work. And whether people, feel as though I should get recognition for it or not, I think that this is my piece and that's my testimony. And I got through it. And if there's anyone that has ever had to struggle with a health issue alone because they didn't want to tell the world, or because they didn't know how to explain it, or it was new and they still weren't educated even on their own diagnosis, it's okay if you make a mistake and you don't know what you're doing at first. You'll figure it out. Don't listen to people that don't know what you're supposed to be doing if they've never done it before.
Exactly.
So that's really it.
Okay. So I have 2 questions left. If there's a message that you could give to your future self, what would it be?
Don't be so hard on yourself. I think that when you're hard on yourself and you question yourself too much, you do things out of impulse and not out of clarity. And a lot of the times we know what we're supposed to do. We just overthink it. And we find whatever reason or whatever circumstance or just anything to not do it because we might be scared. But don't be so hard on yourself. If you want to do that thing that you said you wanted to do, do it. Just go ahead and do it, and just don't think about why you might not have the money to fulfill it. Don't think about why someone might not like it. Because if you start thinking about those things, they're never going to happen.
Okay. Last question. Well, before I ask the question, is that red light still on?
Yes.
Cool. I just had to make sure I didn't die. Last question. What do you want the world to know about Abby Soul as well as Yanel Rivera?
Oh, man. So what I want the world to know about me is I want the world to know that I give all that I got. I don't give 10% of anything. And I never do. I don't give 10% to a relationship. I don't give 10% to friendships. I don't give 10% to my career. If I'm going to do it, I do it with my all. And if you can't join the ride and embrace that, then you're not meant to be here with me. And the people that are, they know that I'm one of the best to ever do it. It's like, no, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. No, but no, I mean, I don't know. You just know it's a feeling. It's a feeling, really.
Okay. So that is the end of the podcast. Before I go, the camera's now all yours. If there's anything you want to say, any advice you want to give, anything at all, this is your opportunity.
Ooh, all right. So I think the one thing I want to share is everyone has 24 hours. We have the same 24 hours. Don't get so caught up with what everyone else is doing with their 24 hours. Focus on what you can do with yours and make the best of it. A lot of the times we get caught up with the time that we don't have and not enough of the time that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And 24 hours is a lot compared to someone that might not be able to go home and see their kid because they're fighting a war. Or 24 hours might be a lot for someone that just died and they're not able to see their loved ones. 24 hours is a lot. So make the best of it. You know, don't be upset that you can't do something that someone else is doing. Maybe you're not meant to do that. Figure out what you're meant to do with your 24 hours and go and grab the hell out of life and make it happen.
Okay.
You know?
All right. Well, Abby and Yanel, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry, but I do think this is one of my favorite podcasts that I've done. And I can say that honestly. It's definitely up there. Top 10 at least.
I'm so honored.
So I do want to end it off. Well, Yanel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Of course. And I have to say, before I do my outro, everything that you do is amazing. And it's amazing to have such an amazing soul doing as much as you are, going through so much behind closed doors, and is still putting a foot forward to help others. So I want to say that you're a beautiful soul, and I hope that you continue to do what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
And I really do appreciate it. I'm glad that I was able to be on this podcast. You're doing God's work. And I hope that other people can feel the same thing I felt coming here today because I got inspired.
Thank you. So the outro. So basically, well, you guys know the outro. This is the Community Pod. Thank you for coming to another episode. Abby, Yanel, thank you for being here. It was a great experience. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know your favorite part. Also, put on post notifications so you never miss a future episode. If you're watching on audio platforms, please leave a review. It allows other people to find my platform. And last but not least, if this is your first time coming here, welcome to the Community Pod. And if you've been watching a few of my episodes, thank you so much for being a part of this community. I couldn't do it without you because to build a community, I need amazing people like yourselves. So thank you, and we are out. Peace.